First contact and the slap. Commander Andrew Phillips stood before the wide, curved window of Space Station Liberty's observation deck, watching as the massive Zenturi diplomatic vessel approached. The ship was an imposing construct of dark metal and fractal geometry, unlike anything human engineers had ever built. Its hull absorbed the light of distant stars, casting it in a shadow that seemed too deliberate to be natural. Behind Andrew, Lieutenant Olivia Grant worked the comm station. She was calm in appearance, but Andrew saw her fingers tremble slightly on the console. "They're requesting final docking clearance, sir," she said without turning around. "Permission granted," Andrew replied. "Assign them to Bay 12. He tugged on the hem of his uniform, smoothing the dark blue fabric. 20 years in the United Earth Space Force had taught him to expect the unexpected, but nothing in his training compared to this. For 3 decades, humanity had exchanged messages and data with the Zenturi, but never met them in person. Today changed everything. He exited the command deck and walked briskly toward docking Bay 12, his polished boots echoing down the curved, sterile corridors. As he turned the final corner, he saw the waiting party already assembled. At the front stood Lisa Simmons, Earth's lead diplomat, composed, silver-haired, eyes sharp. Beside her stood her 8-year-old daughter Megan, small in stature but holding herself with a determined kind of seriousness. Andrew approached quietly. "Is it wise to have your daughter here?" Lisa gave a tight smile. "They requested the presence of children. They believe it reveals how a species treats its young. Apparently, they include their own offspring in all high-level ceremonies." Andrew gave a slow nod, looking at Megan, who stared straight ahead in a crisp blue dress bearing the United Earth emblem. The airlock hissed. All eyes turned toward the thick metal doors that separated 2 civilizations. A deep clang signaled the equalization of atmospheric pressure. With a hiss of hydraulics, the airlock opened. High Commander Zorak stepped into the light. Even though Andrew had seen stills and projections of the Zenturi, nothing prepared him for the reality. Zorak stood nearly 8 feet tall, his body sheathed in a shimmering blue-green exoskeleton that pulsed slightly in the ambient station lighting. He had 4 arms, each ending in 3 elongated fingers. His face had a humanoid shape, but with no visible mouth, just a complex breathing apparatus, and compound eyes that shimmered like oil on water. "Welcome to Space Station Liberty," Lisa said, stepping forward. "I am Lisa Simmons, diplomatic representative of Earth." A small device on Zorak's chest translated his series of clicking noises. "I am High Commander Zorak of the Zenturi Imperial Fleet. We are honored to begin the inspection." 5 more Zenturi officers followed him, each with distinct patterns on their carapace, markings of rank or role. The smallest one, standing at the back of the group, looked barely larger than Megan. Lisa gestured behind her. "These are our scientific, military, and cultural delegates. And this," she said gently, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder, "is my daughter, Megan." Zorak's eyes locked on the child. "You bring offspring to such engagements. This is compatible with our traditions." Megan curtsied just as she had been taught. "Welcome to our station," she said with poise. A flicker of movement came from the smallest Zenturi. A quick, unauthorized sequence of clicks. Zorak answered with a sharp, commanding chirp. The junior officer immediately stepped back and lowered all 4 limbs submissively. "Discipline is foundational," Zorak explained. "Even our youngest must respect order." Lisa nodded carefully. "We teach respect too, but we also encourage curiosity and individuality." Zorak tilted his head slightly. "A curious notion. We will observe this." Andrew led them through the station. Crew members lined the walls, watching silently as the Zenturi passed in eerie, perfect formation. The rhythmic sound of alien limbs on metal echoed through the corridors. Megan walked beside her mother, occasionally sneaking glances at the aliens. The smallest Zenturi, Junior Officer Krelzak according to the introduction data, kept watching her in turn. Tomorrow we will show you our hydroponics and research facilities, Andrew explained. We are particularly interested in your defense systems, Zorak said. Lisa interjected. And we'll highlight our art and education initiatives as well. Human culture offers much in creative and social exchange. Once the aliens were escorted to their guest quarters, Andrew let out a slow breath. Lisa stood beside him, better than expected, she said. Maybe. But something about them feels like they're judging everything by strength. Lisa looked down at Megan, who was yawning. This is just the beginning. Tomorrow, they'll see who we really are. Morning arrived. At exactly 0800, the Zenturi delegation emerged from their quarters. Their exoskeletons were newly polished. Andrew was impressed by their discipline. We are prepared, Zorak said. Lisa and Megan met them at the elevator. Megan wore another blue dress, her hair neatly pulled back. She looked serious beyond her years. They entered the hydroponics lab, a huge, climate-controlled space with rows of thriving plants. The air smelled fresh and alive. This is the heart of our space agriculture, Lisa said. Dr. Peter West, the lead botanist, welcomed them. We grow over 200 species here. 60% of the station's food is produced inside this lab. Junior Officer Krelzak moved between the rows with a device, scanning light levels and air quality. Inefficient, Zorak commented. Zenturi systems yield threefold. Fascinating, West replied. Perhaps we could learn from each other. Zorak paused. You admit inferiority and seek improvement. Unexpected. To us, Lisa said, that's not weakness. It's wisdom. The group passed by exotic fruit beds. Megan's eyes lit up at a glowing yellow fruit that changed color when touched. That's a solar berry, Dr. West explained. It shifts color based on the light spectrum around it. Your body heat can cause a reaction. Megan nodded, enchanted. Can I look closer? Stay near me, Lisa said. No touching. They moved on, but Megan kept glancing back. As Dr. West explained oxygen recycling, Megan slipped away. Andrew saw her heading toward the solar berries, her small hand outstretched. Lisa, he said quietly. But it was too late. Megan tripped slightly, falling forward, and her hand brushed against Krelzak's lower arm. In a blur, the Zenturi junior officer spun. One of his arms whipped out. The sound of the slap cracked across the lab. Megan staggered back, her cheek blooming red with a shallow cut. Blood trickled down her skin. Time froze. Then Megan wailed. Lisa ran forward, cradling her child. What have you done? Andrew stepped between the humans and aliens. Martinez and his security team appeared, hands ready near weapons. Step away from the child, Martinez ordered. Zorak made a confused chirping noise. The youngling violated protocol. Correction was necessary. Dr. West crouched by Megan. She's hurt, but it's not deep. She needs medical. Lisa turned, clutching Megan, and left without a word. Zorak watched, compound eyes unreadable. Was the correction too harsh for a human? Andrew's voice was cold. On Earth, we do not strike children. Not ever. Zorak stiffened. We shall return to our quarters. This situation must be evaluated. As the Zenturi left, Andrew saw the expressions of the station's crew. The awe was gone. In its place was fear, and fury. And the first fracture in 30 years of diplomacy had opened. The diplomatic crisis. Megan lay still in the medical bay, a small bandage placed neatly on her cheek. The bleeding had stopped, but the emotional wound lingered in the sterile silence. Lisa Simmons sat at her side, one hand gently stroking her daughter's hair, the other clenched in her lap. She'll be okay, Dr. Julie Morgan said softly. The cut was shallow, and regenerative treatment will prevent any permanent scar. She's sleeping now, just under a light sedative. Lisa gave a tight nod. Thank you. The room's quiet was broken by the faint hum of the station's environmental systems. Officer Sean Martinez stood by the doorway, face unreadable. I've doubled security around the Zenturi quarters, he said. If you wish to press charges, we're ready. Lisa looked up, her voice calm but laced with fatigue. Charges under what law, Officer Martinez? We don't even have a legal framework for interspecies conduct. With respect, ma'am, Martinez said, his jaw tight, they hit a human child on a human station. Our laws should apply. Before she could respond, Commander Andrew Phillips entered the room with Dr. Kevin Rodriguez, the station's lead xenoanthropologist. Rodriguez looked exhausted, his eyes bloodshot from hours of combing cultural data. How's Megan? Andrew asked quietly. She'll recover, Lisa replied. Physically. Kevin stepped closer. I've been reviewing all the files we have on Zenturi societal structure. Their culture places immense value on discipline, especially among younglings. Krelzak's action wasn't out of hostility. In his eyes, it was duty. Lisa's expression tightened. I've studied alien societies for 20 years. I've dealt with species that see gender as fluid, that share collective minds, even ones that communicate through scent. But nothing prepared me for the sight of my daughter being struck. I know, Kevin said, but understanding doesn't mean approval. It just means we might find a way through this. Andrew's communicator beeped. He checked the message, frowning. Admiral Hawkins is convening an emergency World Council session. The footage is already on Earth. Viral, actually. Lisa's heart sank. How bad? Protests outside the UEDF building. Some calling for the Zenturi's expulsion. Others are marching for peace. The footage is being replayed on every major channel. Kevin handed Lisa a datapad. This is what the Zenturi are seeing in return. Endless news reports, public outcry, images of Megan's face. From their perspective, we've overreacted and turned a disciplinary act into an interstellar scandal. Because it is, Martinez said sharply, if we let it slide, what message does that send? One we may not survive, Andrew muttered. We're on the edge of a diplomatic cliff. Inside the Zenturi delegation quarters, High Commander Zorak stood motionless. The translation orb in the center of the room pulsed with soft blue light as it processed their internal discussion. The humans show excessive emotion, Krelzak said. The offspring broke hierarchy and protocol. Correction was issued. They protect weakness, said another officer. Zorak raised a hand. This reaction was unexpected. We must reconsider our analysis of human developmental values. Perhaps their young are fragile, one officer offered. The red fluid, blood, disturbed them. Still, Krelzak insisted, I performed my role. Zorak made a low, clicking hum that silenced them. We studied them for 30 orbits. And still we failed. That is on all of us. On the station bridge, Andrew reviewed the energy readouts. His face paled. The Zenturi ship is raising shields, Lieutenant Grant said. Weapons? Unclear, but power levels are rising. Andrew immediately opened a channel. Get me Admiral Hawkins. Now. Within minutes, the Admiral's stern face appeared. Status? They're moving into a defensive posture. Possibly preparing for extraction by force. We have authorization to defend the station if needed, she said. But try everything to avoid escalation. The UES Defender is en route, ETA 3 hours. Andrew nodded grimly. Understood. Back in the medical bay, Lisa made her decision. She kissed Megan's forehead gently. Watch over her, she said to Dr. Morgan. Where are you going? The doctor asked. To salvage what's left of peace, Lisa replied. As she left, Officer Martinez called out. Ma'am, they might not want to talk. Then I'll make them listen. Inside the Zenturi quarters, Zorak stood alone when Lisa arrived. The guards let her through after confirming her identity. She entered the room, her steps slow but deliberate. "Hi, Commander," she said. Zorak turned, his eyes shimmering. "I request dialogue," Lisa said. "Not as a mother. As a diplomat." Zorak regarded her. "You may speak. You've seen our response." It was not meant as hostility, it was grief, outrage, and confusion. "Your kind reacts irrationally." "Perhaps," Lisa admitted, "but to us, children are sacred. Not subordinate." Zorak said nothing. "I propose a joint tribunal," she said. "To evaluate the incident through both our cultures' lenses. Not vengeance, understanding." Zorak was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. "You propose, a bridge." "Yes. A way forward. Or we lose everything." Meanwhile, Captain Jerry Rivera's ship docked at Liberty. He stepped off with urgency, greeted by Andrew. "I was called to prevent war," Jerry said. "Are we too late?" "No," Andrew replied. "But we're running out of time." Escalation and threat of war. Commander Andrew Phillips paced the command deck of Space Station Liberty, eyes locked on the screen tracking Zenturi's ship movements. The alien vessel remained in its docking alignment, but its shields had gone opaque, pulsing with a dull green hue that signaled readiness for rapid departure, or conflict. "Any updates?" he asked. Lieutenant Olivia Grant shook her head. "They haven't responded to any new transmissions, sir. No change in energy output, but still high. Keep trying. Increase the urgency." As she nodded and returned to her console, the side door hissed open. Captain Jerry Rivera entered, dressed in black diplomatic security armor trimmed with the silver sigil of the United Earth Defense Force. His face was unreadable. "They're watching us as closely as we're watching them," he said to Andrew. "Probably expecting a preemptive strike. Let's make sure we don't give them a reason." Rivera walked to the viewport, studying the Zenturi ship. "My team's already mapped their likely exit vectors. If they launch, we have 5 minutes to react before they jump into deep orbit. That window's razor thin. We're trying to keep this from becoming a combat scenario." "I know. But my orders are clear, Commander. If they open fire or attempt to seize any part of the station, we respond." Andrew didn't answer. He didn't have to. The hum of suppressed tension said everything. On Earth, chaos had found a new voice. News anchors debated endlessly across continents. Headlines blared, "Alien assault on human child sparks outrage, Earth's first contact spirals into crisis, diplomacy or war." The world divided. In the World Council chamber in Geneva, representatives from every continent met in emergency session. Footage of the incident replayed on a massive central screen, muted but haunting. "This was an attack," said Ambassador Remy Ngoma of Senegal. "No matter the cultural context, our children cannot be subject to foreign discipline on our own stations. And if we break off contact now," countered Ambassador Ilya Vashkin of the Eurasian Union. 30 years of diplomacy lost, and a possible war started over an act we don't yet understand. "We understand plenty," snapped Senator Brooks from North America. "They hit a little girl. I don't care if their holy texts tell them to slap toddlers. We do not accept it." The room descended into crosstalk. No consensus. No leadership. Only noise. On Station Liberty, Lisa Simmons sat in her temporary office, reading transcripts of the Zenturi's few recent messages. They were curt, sterile, and increasingly formal. No apology. No admission of wrongdoing. Only acknowledgments of diplomatic process and observation of protocol. Captain Rivera entered without knocking. "I've read your proposal," he said, tossing a data chip onto her desk. "A tribunal?" "Yes. A joint hearing. Earth observers, Zenturi overseers. We treat the incident as a point of legal and cultural divergence, not aggression. And you think Zorak will agree? I think he already has, Lisa said, he just hasn't said it yet. Rivera raised an eyebrow, you're betting on alien psychology. No, Lisa said, I'm betting on parenthood. In the Zenturi quarters, High Commander Zorak stood before a projection of the Earth protests. He watched children holding signs. Some cried. Others wore bandages drawn on their cheeks in red marker. Junior Officer Krelzak stood behind him, silent. You see how they respond, Zorak said, his voice unusually soft. They amplify weakness. Zorak turned. Or they refuse to let it be normalized. That too is strength. Krelzak lowered his arms. Then I failed. You followed instinct. But instinct is not law. Back on the bridge, alarms chirped. Commander. The Zenturi ship just shifted internal energy states, Lieutenant Grant said. They've gone to tactical red. Weapons are primed. Andrew rushed to the main console. Communications. No response. But the message they just transmitted, encrypted burst, tight beam, was directed at their homeworld. Meaning? They might be asking for extraction, Grant said. Or authorization to engage. Rivera appeared beside him. We need to prepare for the worst. I'm moving my team to defensive positions around their quarters. Andrew's fingers hovered over the command terminal. Ready our own countermeasures, but do not fire unless fired upon. We hold the line. Outside the station, the Zenturi ship's lights flared red. Inside, humans braced. The standoff. The emergency klaxons stopped. Not because the threat had passed, but because the crew of Space Station Liberty had already taken their positions. Hallways were sealed, checkpoints activated, and automated defense turrets hummed quietly in standby mode. Every crew member had been briefed, do not engage unless ordered. In the command center, Commander Andrew Phillips stood before the central display as the Zenturi ship silhouette loomed outside like a waiting predator. Report, he said. No change, said Lieutenant Grant. They haven't moved. Their weapons are hot but not aimed. We're in a cold standoff. Captain Jerry Rivera entered, his armored vest unfastened at the neck. Station security has all civilian sectors under lockdown. Engineering is ready to jettison sections if needed. I've also got sniper drones stationed outside the Zenturi quarters. Andrew didn't look up. We're one mistake away from war, Captain. I know, Rivera replied. And frankly, that mistake might not be ours. In the medical bay, Megan stirred. Her small voice broke the silence. Mama? Lisa Simmons was instantly at her side. I'm here, sweetheart. Megan blinked, confused. Why did the alien hit me? Did I do something wrong? Lisa's heart broke all over again. No, baby. You were just curious. It wasn't your fault. But he looked so angry, Megan said. Was he a bad guy? He's different, Lisa said carefully. They think about rules in another way. But that doesn't make it right. Are we gonna fight them now? Lisa paused, I hope not. I'm trying to make sure we don't. Dr. Kevin Rodriguez worked feverishly in his lab, surrounded by linguistic and cultural databases. He hadn't slept in almost 30 hours. His notes were scattered across 2 desks, and several cups of half-drunk coffee stood sentry around him. They operate on chain dominance logic, he muttered. Every interaction is hierarchical. Even correction is performance. His assistant, a quiet technician named Mirai, leaned over, so Krelzak didn't hit her out of cruelty. It was protocol. Yes. And until we can communicate that we understand their logic, even if we reject it, they won't back down. They're not wired for guilt. They're wired for justification. He hit the intercom, I need a line to Lisa Simmons. Now. Zorak stared at the stars. He stood in solitude in a private alcove of the Zenturi quarters, each of his 4 arms folded in a different contemplative posture. The display in front of him showed both the human protests and his own ship's readiness logs. A ping. "High Commander," a translated voice said. "Incoming communication, private channel. From Diplomat Simmons." Zorak accepted. Lisa's voice came through. Steady. Composed. "Zorak. We are past protocol. Past politics. This is now a matter of survival for both our people." "We do not wish for war," Zorak replied, "then let's prove it. Accept the tribunal. Allow both sides to speak. Let Krelzak defend his action. Let me defend my child." Zorak did not respond for a long moment. "We will attend," he finally said. "Under terms of parity." "Done," Lisa said. "I'll send the framework within the hour." Commander Phillips received the confirmation 37 minutes later. "They've agreed to the tribunal," Lisa said. "You just bought us time," Andrew replied. "Maybe even a future." Rivera looked out the viewing window where the Zenturi ship's lights slowly faded from red to amber. "The standoff is over," he said. "But the real test begins now. Judgment and a new path." The tribunal chamber aboard Space Station Liberty had been hastily prepared, but it bore all the ceremonial weight of a historic turning point. On one side sat the human delegation, diplomats, psychologists, military advisors, and cultural scholars. On the other, the Zenturi, regal and unblinking, their exoskeletons polished to perfection. At the center sat High Commander Zorak and diplomat Lisa Simmons. Junior Officer Krelzak stood between them, the focus of every eye. Dar. Kevin Rodriguez opened the session. "This tribunal is not a trial. It is a bridge, built from understanding, not judgment. Both sides will speak. Both sides will listen." First to testify was Krelzak. His voice, through the translator, was steady. "I was positioned for environmental data collection. The youngling touched my lower arm, violating proximity protocol. Discipline was enacted." "Was there intent to harm?" asked Rodriguez. "No, correction was administered as taught." "Did you understand the child's nature? Her emotional fragility?" Krelzak paused. "I did not." Rodriguez nodded, "Thank you." Next came Dr. Morgan, who outlined Megan's medical status and the emotional trauma endured. Images of her injury, her tears, and her question, "Did I do something wrong?" flashed briefly on the display. Zorak's compound eyes shimmered, unreadable. Then Lisa spoke. She stood at the center, hands folded. "I am not here as an accuser," she began. "I am a mother. A diplomat. A citizen of Earth. And I believe in peace." She paused. "In our culture, children are not extensions of order. They are our future. To strike one is not just a breach of law, it is a break in our shared humanity." She turned toward the Zenturi side, "But I also believe in something else. That ignorance can be corrected. That offense does not always require retaliation. That understanding is strength." Silence held the chamber. Zorak stood. "This incident has exposed a fault in our assumptions. We thought we knew you. But we judged without empathy." He turned to Krelzak. "You acted within Zenturi norms, but beyond interspecies understanding. You will be reassigned. Educated. And when ready, you will return as a student, not an officer." He then turned to Lisa. "We offer you regret. Not apology, our language lacks such a word. But know this, we have learned." In the days that followed, a new accord was drafted. Earth and the Zenturi Empire co-signed the Intercultural Ethical Framework, a document outlining mutual respect protocols, non-aggression agreements, and a shared council for future contact scenarios. On Earth, protests cooled. Some still called for separation, but many watched Lisa's tribunal speech and wept. Aboard Liberty, Megan sat up in bed, finally smiling. "Did we win, Mama?" Lisa kissed her forehead. "We didn't win. But we didn't lose. And sometimes, that's more important." Outside the viewport, the Zenturi ship drifted away, slow and silent, a reminder of how close humanity had come to its first interstellar war, and how, through empathy and strength, it had chosen a different path. The end.